Our third speaker is our immediate past president. He's a graduate of NPS, and he is a future mover and shaker in Washington, D.C. Is that fair to say? Okay. I neglected on getting the speech name or the title or which one it is, so it's going to be a surprise for all of us on what our next speaker presents to us. I think it'll be 8 to 10 minutes, but Robin Walker, please come on up and give your speech.
I don't know how many of you watched the movie Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story, but it's a parody of the rock biopics such as Walk the Line, the Johnny Cash story, or Ray, the Ray Charles story. And it opens with Dewey Cox, the aging rocker, lying there lugubriously against the wall, music pounding in the background. And the stage manager comes up to him and says, Mr. Cox, you're on in 2 minutes. And his drummer comes over and says, hold on, son. Mr. Cox has to contemplate his entire existence before writing a song that sums up his entire life. Well, giving my last speech here at NPS Toastmasters, I feel kind of the same challenge. My first Toastmasters experience was in Washington, D.C. I was a charter member of a club at my company, and it was not exactly an auspicious beginning. The first person who was scheduled to give his icebreaker forgot that he was giving his icebreaker and had to stand up and essentially give a 4 to 6 minute table topics exercise. I gave my icebreaker and did well enough that I was deemed funny, or at least funny enough for the club, and so my second speech was actually as the club representative to the area humorous speech contest, where I placed second. So I guess I was funny enough for that. I'm the kind of guy who has always been asked to be an officer in everything. At one point in college, I was the president of the outing club, the scuba club, the rock climbing wall, the college Democrats, and the college radio program. So soon enough I was asked to be the vice president of membership for this club. It was a small club, but we had some good active members. We didn't really have any mentors coming in to teach us, certainly nobody from a club as auspicious as NPS Toastmasters. And I was one of the more active members. So in my year there, I finished my CTM, or Competent Toastmaster degree, as that award was called back then. Now they call it the Competent Communicator. And I decided to move out to Monterey. I was coming out here for grad school. I was a fairly accomplished speaker, having completed my Competent Toastmaster, and I didn't really feel the need for more training or more practice. I wasn't planning on looking for a Toastmasters club when I came out here. But one day I was wandering around the halls on a Friday, perhaps feeling a little lugubrious since my office has no windows and it's a beautiful June day. And I came across a little sign and I said, well, Toastmasters, I could sit in that for a lunch hour. That was fun. I've had fun with that before. And I came in and two things really struck me. How welcoming and open everyone was here, and how formal the meeting was. My previous club was not nearly as formal, having just been formed. We didn't really go through all the formal rules of Robert's Rules of Order. The grammarian, word master, and counter were all the same person in my club. And we normally had around 10 or 12 people at every meeting, so we didn't always have enough to fill all the roles. People would get called on for table topics no matter whether they had a role or not. And I commented on these changes and the differences that NPS Toastmasters had in my first time as guest comments, but I still wasn't really sure if I wanted to be a member here. But at the end of the meeting, the president, Brendan Epps, looked me in the eye and he said, I want you to consider the seat you're sitting in to be your very own. Now I had just moved here and I had an empty apartment, so the idea of free furniture really appealed to me. So I came back the next week and I had a good time, and a couple weeks after that, I volunteered and said I'll stay as a guest for a little while longer, and I'll serve as the test speaker for the club evaluation contest in the fall. And I stayed on through those few weeks, and by then I was hooked and I decided to join as a member. I think my time at NPS Toastmasters speaks for itself. You guys know most of my history. On a personal level, I completed my Competent Leader Award, my Advanced Communicator Bronze Award, my Advanced Leader Bronze Award. Those were all very satisfying personally. I became the Vice President of Education here and got to practice my Lyndon Johnson Master of the Senate pose, coming up and saying, you're going to sign up for this role next week. A lot of fun. I introduced the term T-Mod here. That was fun. I dressed up in a tuxedo one day, and Brian still managed to outclass me by wearing his full dress uniform. I ran a full meeting backwards, which was one of the prides of my time here. A lot of fun, something I recommend for after I go. But really, my personal accomplishments paled in comparison to the fun that I got to do for the club. I really got a sense of pride, a warm feeling in my stomach when I got to stand up here every morning or every afternoon and open the meeting and state the mission of a Toastmasters club and bang the gavel at the end of the meeting. And I got to go, sure, accomplishing all 10 goals during my time as president was good, President's Distinguished. That's great. That was all because of you. You guys made my job easier. But what was more impressive than that, what was far more helpful and a far better feeling than doing that and doing anything myself was going to these conferences, going to Toastmasters conferences near and local, far and certainly not so local, and seeing the pride and the level of accomplishment and the level of respect that these people give us. These people from San Francisco, from big clubs, with world champion public speakers, look in the eye and say, "You're from NPS Toastmasters. Wow." That's because of you guys. That's because of what you've done, what you've accomplished as a club. I guess this is the point where I get to sum up my entire NPS Toastmasters experience. That's a pretty tough thing to do, and I'm a little young to write my memoirs. And when I do, I hope that my memoirs include the word re-election. But I do have a bit of sage Toastmasters advice for you guys. In thinking about it and trying to write this, and trying to come up with a title, I didn't come up with a title. I'm not giving a speech from any manual. But I have advice for you guys. The number one thing I see when people come up here, number one thing I got when I really got the warm feeling from serving as a mentor and seeing some of my first mentees come up here and grow and build as speakers. When you're up here, don't be nervous. You're not nervous, you're excited. You're excited to come speak before a group of your peers. You're excited to share your ideas, to share your values, to share what you want with whatever forms of communication you want with everyone. If you convince yourself in your heart that you are not nervous to stand in this spot, that you own this spot, and you are excited to own this spot, to stand here and do your business, that's my number one piece of advice for any Toastmaster, for any public speaker. Will I join another Toastmasters club after I move? Who knows? Certainly, it won't be able to hold a candle to NPS Toastmasters. But I have a feeling that someday when I'm walking down the halls of Congress, the halls of power, in a not too distant future, I'll hear the faint patter of clapping and the ding of a little bell, and I'll be inextricably drawn to it. Thank you everyone for making this time here at NPS Toastmasters such a wonderful experience.